in New York, take a long walk on a short pier. As we take our old friend, the afternoon constitutional, literally, because it's 2020 now and that's how the world works. As we walk today, talk about a couple of random things. It struck me because I was playing some old-timey music. I am a man. I won't subject you to it, but you know the song I'm talking about. I forget who it was. Somebody famous sang it, but it wasn't George Clooney. So we were playing it, and all of a sudden it struck me. I get emails fairly regularly from movie promoters who are trying to tell me all this marvelous stuff about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I think the most recent one is, did you know Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is almost one of the biggest movies he's ever put out? Almost one. Polish it all you want. Doesn't sound like The Odyssey is paying Matt Damon's salary, but I decided to take a look just because, well, I hate to confess this. Well, confession's good for the soul. Forgive me, viewer, for I have sinned. I indulge myself with some Schadenfreude every now and then. I don't know, sometimes, especially when people try really hard to make it seem like they're better than you, it's fun to bask in their ignominy. Sorry. Call me weak. So I just did some back of the napkin research. And do you know that of the two most recent tellings of Homer's Odyssey, O Brother, Where Art Thou, by the Coen brothers, outdid Christopher Nolan's most recent, more literal take on the story. I think it was per screen on the opening weekend, Christopher Nolan's Odyssey took in about $137,000 per screen. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou took in almost 170 per screen anyway. I find that to be fun because I enjoy that kind of thing. I enjoy taking classic stories and either directly or indirectly putting them in a new milieu. There's a series of films starring big names, Houston and Bill Murray. That Bill Murray's a big name. That take Shakespeare and put them in new instances. Same scripts. They don't change the script one iota. But they'll, for example, Hamlet, instead of the king of some Dutch country, he's the son of a technology entrepreneur whose tech company is all over the world, global, and has just passed away. Bill Murray plays his uncle. They redid Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo and Juliet with little Fiat sports cars and Glocks instead of swords and horses. They redid the Scottish play with Patrick Stewart in like a World War II bunker. I enjoy those because I think these timeless stories work, no matter where you have them. And, I know people would laugh, but Valley Girl was a perfectly good retelling of Romeo and Juliet, as have many of the retellings of these classic tomes. I mean, Aesop's fables probably still should be worked into kids' television every now and then. Heaven only knows what the Walt Disney Company has done to the Grimm brothers. Not nearly so grim anymore. It's a beautiful day. The most magic kingdom. So I just thought that was fun, apropos of nothing else. But as today unfolded, actually a relatively personal story, but it speaks a lot to the American heart. My family is heavily wound into the Burger King story. My dad, in the mid-60s, went to work with some of his Cornell hotel school buddies and really helped create Burger King as we know it. Burger King Corporation gave them pretty much carte blanche to open up stores wherever they thought they'd be appropriate in the New York metropolitan area. And they did. I guess it was the early 70s. Burger King was looking for a gimmick, a thing that separated them from the rest of the sandwich-making drive-up restaurants. And somebody suggested, well, we're making these sandwiches with all these condiments. What if somebody doesn't want one of these condiments? And as I understand it, it went back and forth. Well, how can you do that? You have to wait for each hamburger to be broiled, and it takes a few minutes, and you're not a fast food restaurant anymore, and so on and so forth, back and forth. And as I'm told the story, my father, whose family were all engineers, and I'm sure lorded that over him, his sister's father, they all Cornellian engineers. But my dad suggested a steam table. Kind of sketched out the idea of how this steam table would work and how the kitchen would be oriented so that you could, at a moment's notice, grab a hot hamburger out of the steam table, whip it up the way the customer wanted it, and send it on out the door. Once that was instituted, and for the only time in the history of the two franchises, or two corporations, Burger King, both as a unit-by-unit operation and as a corporation writ large, made more money than McDonald's. They were number one. Why? Because have it your way seems to resonate with the American heart. Choice? My friend Charles, we were telling this story on the radio this morning. Our friend Charles wrote in, "My burger, my choice. My burger, my choice." So it was wonderful, but new kids come along and new fascinations, and Burger King dropped that and then dropped like a stone in the rankings of service restaurants, fast food chains, whatever you want to call them. I think at one point they were 4th or 5th behind McDonald's and Wendy's and Chick-fil-A and KFC. And I bring this up because on Monday, 2 months after bringing back the concept of have it your way, Burger King had an almost 10% growth in their market share. That's unheard of in any world. 10%, vaulting all the other chain restaurants back into second place, chasing McDonald's. All because they brought back the campaign that my dad helped them institute in the first place, which is have it your way. And there's an American point to that. I mean, I know Donald Trump worked in the McDonald's drive-thru, and that's all well and good. And as a matter of fact, I'm not slagging McDonald's at all. I found out something this weekend that Ray Kroc and Joan gave billions of dollars at their death to the Salvation Army to build athletic facilities for kids in inner cities. Can't really say anything bad about a guy. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people do, and that's all well and good. And if you've ever seen Michael Keaton's The Founder, they kind of make him not look like such a great guy. But nobody gives that much money to the Salvation Army and doesn't get credit from me. So, to you, Ray. But the American heart is the heart of choice. It is, I can do what I want to do as long as it doesn't impact you. And we've lost a lot of that. It's too easy to blame social media because to me, though there is a live aspect to social media, he says on YouTube, it's still an inanimate object until we pick it up and start doing something with it. So I'm loath to blame social media for just, I think, shining a bright light on bad things that we hide in the corners of our psyche. But now the internet's shining this bright light on it, and there we are for all to see. So we all want to be an influencer. We all want to have lots of followers. So we all try to say things and do things that make us popular. I just read X is changing how it rewards its content creators, taking it away from the clickbait model where regardless of what you put up there, the more clicks you get, the more bucks you get, if you get any bucks. And they're instituting something they're calling a unique content reward system. I don't know the nuance of it. I imagine this would be unique content. What other white-haired radio guy would go for a half an hour walk in the middle of a Virginia summer with his peoples? Me. So I guess it's unique. But they're backing away from this because they're finding, and this is a message for those who want Ted Cruz to save the NCAA from themselves. Advertisers eventually get to the point where they realize, by the way, the Afternoon Constitutional is brought to you by, no, wait, really? Monticello Mattress and More. They're just outside Lake Monticello, MonticelloMattress.com. Awesome folks. Sponsor this program. But advertisers are starting to realize that just because you have a social media influencer putting your makeup on in various interesting places around the planet doesn't turn into sales. And as much as everyone wants to call it a new economy, it's the same old economy. You got to sell stuff, which means if you're paying money for somebody to try to sell stuff and no one buys it, then you're going to stop. So what's happening is a lot of these influencers are losing their gigs. California, of all places, along with Texas, is considering a law that would require social media influencers to put right up front in a graphic at the beginning of their influence if it's being paid for by anybody. I can't really just say political campaigns, but anybody. The Center for Disease Control and the Institute of Infectious Diseases wants you to do a podcast that says some shot is safe and effective. You're going to have to say that right up front to the camera. Theoretically, I'm just saying. So I think this story about X changing how they're going to make content is notable because I think the whole internet is seeing this. The whole internet is finding out that there's not really that much money out there. And it's coming back to places like radio because we do actual content and then just hang your advertisement next to it under a message saying, "Eat at Joe's." And we're not proud. We tell you right up front, you like this stuff, go buy something at Monticello Mattress and more. MonticelloMattress.com. Because that's how we eat. That's how I pay my internet service bill. So we're getting back to an honest place. I think we have our fun societally. Maybe I have too many miles to be righteously indignant about this, that, or the other thing. But I think technology comes and most of the people figure out, well, if I can afford it, I'll buy it if I need it. And it seems like we're on the other side of the bell curve of this influencer fixation where I want to be just like. I mean, can you imagine for a minute what kind of social media presence a Lucille Ball or a Mary Tyler Moore could have had? I mean, they made bank anyway because half the time during the I Love Lucy show, Lucy would go to commercial and light up a Lucky Strike and say, "I smoke these too." It was one of the first arguments in broadcast journalism. Bill Paley wanted Edward R. Murrow. You've heard that name, right? Edward R. Murrow. Bill Paley was the boss of CBS television, and he wanted Edward R. Murrow to run advertisements during his evening news, which, by the way, no offense to Tony DeCofield, but it was like 15 minutes long with no commercial breaks. So Bill Paley, seeing that this was the singular most popular thing on his network, said to Edward R. Murrow, "Hey, I want to put some sponsors in here. They all want to be on your newscast." And Murrow said to him, "No, let them sponsor I Love Lucy." And I think he wound up losing that battle, much to our demise, because I think half the newscasts you see out there these days are supported by, I mean, almost in a way that would make PBS stations go, "Oh my." Or in the parlance of George Takei, "Oh my." Because I've been in the room. I've been in these meetings where representatives of the federal government have told broadcasters, if you come up with a creative way to let people know that they need health care insurance, try to lowball the insurance word. We want them to think that health care insurance equals health care. If you can do that, we've got taxpayer money for you. So a lot of the Obamacare news, a lot of the safe and effective news, all of that stuff had sponsorships attached to it. They've got to pay electric bills too. And it beats going out trying to get some car dealership to sponsor your news. And they won't let cigarette companies do it anymore, like with I Love Lucy and Edward R. Murrow. But that's the way it was. I mean, you get this stuff for free. It's just, to me, somewhat disingenuous when somebody doesn't make it clear to you this, Monticello mattress and more, is how we're paying our bills. And they try to make it out like, oh, this is what I believe. These are my heartfelt beliefs. Huh? No, not so much. You see what happens when these podcasters like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens get pressed a little bit. All of a sudden, all that ideology goes right out the window. That's why you have to believe in radio, people. We don't do it for 6 months and take a look back and see if we're as popular as we want it to be. We're in it for the long haul. We're in it to sell mattresses or whatever it is we're selling. But we tell you up front, support our sponsors. Anyway, thank you for taking a walk with me. Hashtag take a walk as we take the afternoon constitutional and make it literal. So long, and thanks for all the fish.